Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Six Path Weeb, and today we're diving into Naruko during the Chunin exams, part 2. Buckle up for some fiery moments and surprising twists. Quick disclaimer, this video is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used, all rights belong to their respective creators. Let's begin with. Naruko slowly opened her eyes and the first thing she noticed was that she was no longer in her room. Instead, she found herself in a vast, open field surrounded by a serene forest. At the center stood a massive tree, towering at least 10 times higher than the trees she remembered from the Forest of Mystery. This was Naruko Uzumaki's mindscape, and it had taken on this form ever since she had first encountered the Kyuubi 7 years ago. Flashback, as I told you. Stop her. Don't let her get away. She doesn't belong here. These were just a few of the harsh words being shouted as a small, blonde-haired girl ran from a group of upset villagers. As many knew, this young girl was Naruko Uzumaki, the host of the Nine-Tailed Fox. Please. Why are you chasing me? I haven't done anything wrong, cried Naruko, her voice trembling as she darted into an alley in hopes of escape. Unfortunately, she found herself at a dead end, leaving her vulnerable. You say you didn't do anything? If you weren't here, we wouldn't have lost so much, shouted a man, stepping closer as the crowd advanced. I really don't understand what you mean, Naruko said desperately, tears in her eyes. Liar, someone shouted, hurling a stone that struck her head. She winced, falling to her knees. Confused and afraid, Naruko tried to shield herself as the group surrounded her. Their words were loud and angry, and though Naruko didn't know why she was being treated this way, she could feel the overwhelming rejection. She curled up, quietly enduring the harshness, not wanting to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry out. Before long, she felt herself slipping away. A strange warmth began to envelop her body, radiating from her stomach. A soft red glow surrounded her, comforting and calming, as she finally lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes again, Naruko found herself in a strange place, a dim corridor with water pooled around her feet. It looked like a long underground passage. Where am I? Wasn't I just in the alley? Naruko thought, cautiously walking through the corridor. She soon noticed a glowing red light coming from one of the pathways and felt compelled to follow it. She eventually entered a large chamber. At the far end stood an enormous gate, and on it was a tag that read seal. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed from behind the bars, followed by a chuckle. Naruko froze. Ah, so my guest finally decides to visit. What an honor, said the voice, causing her to step back cautiously. Who are you? What is this place? And what do you mean by guest? Naruko asked, her voice trembling with confusion. You don't know? I am the most powerful being in the world, the Kyuubi no Yoko. And this, the voice said, is your mind. Naruko stared at the enormous figure behind the gate. How are you inside my mind? I thought the 4th Hokage sealed you away years ago. The 4th Hokage did seal me, the Kyuubi replied. But instead of destroying me, which was impossible, he chose to seal me inside someone he trusted. And that someone was you. Why me? And aren't you supposed to be some kind of terrible monster? Naruko asked, still trying to grasp what was happening. There's more to the world than simple labels like good or evil, the Kyuubi said calmly. I was placed under a powerful illusion that forced me into a destructive state. That's why I attacked your village. I am not the villain you've been told about. My purpose, and that of the other tailed beasts, is to maintain balance in the world. So you're saying, you're not actually trying to harm anyone? Naruko asked, her voice softening. Correct. And while I'm not thrilled about being sealed away, I respect the skill it took to make this possible, the Kyuubi said with a hint of admiration. That's why I've decided to give you a rare opportunity. What kind of opportunity? Naruko asked, now more curious than afraid. I may be sealed within you, young one, but that doesn't mean your choices don't affect me, said the Kyuubi calmly. I must maintain the image of being the most powerful being in existence, which means my host must become an exceptional shinobi. Therefore, I offer you the chance to learn an advanced taijutsu style, gain skill in swordsmanship, and sign a summoning contract with one of the most powerful creatures in the world. That's amazing, Naruko exclaimed, eyes gleaming with excitement. Learning from someone as powerful as you. I could become Hokage one day. Wait, is that the only reason you want to train me? Well, the Kyuubi replied, it also wouldn't hurt if you could make our shared mental space a bit more comfortable. If I'm going to be here with you for a long time, I'd prefer a more spacious and pleasant environment. Naruko thought about it for a moment, then smiled. You've got yourself a deal, Kyuubi. I'll get to work on that right away. Thus began a secret partnership. Naruko and the Kyuubi trained quietly for the next 7 years, keeping it hidden to avoid drawing unnecessary attention from the village. 2 months after their agreement, Naruko signed a summoning contract with the Majestic Phoenixes and received Otori Teru from them. She even found a training partner in Jounin Hayate Gecko, since practicing Kenjutsu alone wasn't ideal. End flashback. I wonder what Kyuubi wants to talk about now? Thought Naruko as she made her way to the base of a large tree. As she approached, she saw the Kyuubi resting inside a hollowed-out space in the trunk, a place that served as his den. So, Kyuubi, what did you want to talk about? She asked. Not much, the Kyuubi said, I just wanted to say good job. That ninja you encountered earlier gave off a strange presence. Too much like snakes for my liking. He was likely very skilled. I think you succeeded for 2 reasons. 1, he was physically weakened, something about his breathing gave it away. 2, he underestimated you. Thanks, Kyuubi. I'll keep working hard just in case I see him again. Is that all? Naruko asked. No, the Kyuubi replied seriously. I want to know if you're really ready to drop the mask you've been wearing. Is now the right time to start pursuing that girl? Can you handle what comes next? Naruko hesitated for a moment, then nodded with resolve. I don't think I'm completely ready, but Hinata's been waiting patiently for a long time. I can't keep her in the dark any longer. I've made my decision, and I'll stand by it. The Kyuubi gave a knowing smile. Very well. Take care of her, young one. The mindscape began to fade, and Naruko woke up with a jolt, falling out of bed, something that always happened after one of their conversations. Ugh. I really need to figure out a smoother way to wake up, she muttered as she made her way to the bathroom. 30 minutes later, Naruko was running through the village, inspecting the aftermath of the recent incident. Several buildings were damaged, though thankfully the destruction hadn't spread further. Suddenly, Anbu members appeared atop one of the buildings. Naruko Uzumaki, you've been requested at the Hyuga compound, one of them stated. Naruko blinked in surprise. The Hyuga compound? May I ask why I'm being summoned? Sorry, Uzumaki-san, we were only instructed to escort you, the agent replied. Naruko nodded and followed them. Within 20 minutes, they reached the Hyuga compound, which had clearly sustained some damage as well. After a brief exchange at the gate, she was allowed inside and guided through the estate. Eventually, she was brought before a closed room and told to wait. A minute later, a calm voice invited her in. Hinata was already inside, kneeling politely before an older man who Naruko recognized as Hiashi Hyuga, her father. Naruko was directed to sit beside Hinata, whose face turned a gentle shade of pink. Now that Uzumaki-san is here, we can begin, Hiashi said. As you know, a significant event occurred yesterday. The leader of our village has passed, and until a new Hokage is appointed, the clans are responsible for documenting important incidents. You mean that ninja from the Sound Village was behind it? Naruko interrupted softly, careful with her words but firm in tone. Hiashi studied her. Indeed. But how do you know who is responsible? My team encountered him during the second stage of the exams, Naruko explained. And the ninja who attacked Hinata spoke of someone he called Lord Orochimaru and mentioned plans involving her. Hiashi nodded slowly. That does match what we've observed. That brings us to the main reason you are here, to give a full account of what happened when my daughter was attacked. Naruko gave a thorough, respectful recounting of the encounter. All the while, Hinata sat quietly, her face red as she listened to how bravely Naruko had acted. That was an impressive story, said Hiashi, his voice composed. I also know you've been hiding your true strength from the village. Let me assure you, the Hyuga clan has supported you ever since that day. You don't believe the rumors then? Naruko asked, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. I have always trusted the seal created by my late friend, the fourth Hokage, Hiashi said sincerely. Thank you, Hiashi-sama. That means a lot to me, said Naruko, bowing politely. If you'll excuse me, I was going to go train for the day. One more thing, Hiashi said. There's a reward for rescuing Hinata. If there's anything you'd like, don't hesitate to ask. Naruko hesitated for a moment, then spoke with a nervous but hopeful smile. Would it be all right if Hinata and I spent some time together this evening? Perhaps around 7? Hinata's blush deepened, her heart pounding. Hiashi raised an eyebrow and narrowed his eyes at Naruko, who tried to remain composed. He glanced at his daughter, saw the hopeful sparkle in her eyes, and let out a gentle sigh. Very well, he said. Be here by 7. I expect her home no later than 10. Naruko bowed deeply. Thank you, Hyashi-sama. I'll be here on time, she promised before turning to Hinata. I'll see you tonight. She then left the compound and headed to her usual training ground. Naruko's training began with kenjutsu, sparring against a group of her own shadow clones. She weaved between them gracefully, striking with precise movements. After an hour of intense practice, she dispersed the clones and summoned 200 more. 100 clones began balance and focus drills on the nearby stream, 50 worked on sword techniques infused with chakra, and the remaining 50 practiced wind-based jutsu. Meanwhile, Naruko herself focused on physical conditioning to enhance her strength and speed. Unbeknownst to her, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Hayate observed her training from a distance. Hard to believe the kid's become this strong, said Jiraiya. Yeah, Kakashi added. She never showed any of this when she was on Team 7. I'm surprised she kept it hidden, even during our battle with Zabuza. Hayate, you trained her with the sword, did she ever show you these techniques? Not the chakra-based ones, Hayate replied. But her learning speed is exceptional. The style she used just now. I've never seen anything like it. It's her own, or something ancient. No. She's been developing it on her own, but it's still a work in progress. It's a 9-step kenjutsu style that becomes more effective with each level. So far, she's mastered up to the 4th step. She calls it the dance of the Baijuu, explained Hayate, surprising the others. Wow, if she perfects it, that's going to be an incredible style, remarked Kakashi with interest. Yeah, she says each stage is inspired by one of the Baijuu, Hayate added. So, Jiraiya, what's the plan now that the Hokage has passed? Asked Kakashi, causing the tone to shift somberly. The council already approached me about becoming the next Hokage, but I can't accept. My intelligence network is too valuable to give up. So I've decided to go bring back the one person who could do the job, Jiraiya explained. You mean? You're going to find Lady Tsunade? Both Jounin asked in surprise. Yes, and I'm not going alone. That young Kunoichi is going to help me. Plus, this will be a perfect opportunity to finally teach her the Rasengan, something I've been meaning to do, Jiraiya continued, surprising them even more. At her current level, she'll likely pick it up quickly. But why do you want Naruko to come with you? Kakashi asked. She'll remind Tsunade what it means to be a shinobi of the leaf. That girl carries the will of fire like few others, Jiraiya said with a proud smile. I can't argue with that. So, Hayate, what made you start teaching her kenjutsu? Kakashi asked, shifting the topic. Well, the Hokage first asked me to give her some basic lessons. But once I saw how enthusiastic and disciplined she was, I took her on as an apprentice. She wasn't what people unfairly labeled her as, and her passion for the sword was clear. We trained together whenever possible after her team exercises. Having the shadow clone technique helped her progress quickly, explained Hayate, to which the others nodded in agreement. I'd better report to the council about the search for Tsunade. Can't let them worry too much, Jiraiya said as he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. I've got to check on my team. Sasuke will probably want more training, he's eager to grow stronger, Kakashi said, vanishing soon after. Hayate lingered for a few more minutes before heading off to find his friends Genma, Izumo, Kotetsu, and Yugao. Meanwhile, Naruko continued practicing her techniques for a few hours before realizing she had to prepare to pick up Hinata. She made it home quickly and rummaged through her closet for something nice to wear. She found her one outfit reserved for special occasions, then headed to the shower after hours of training. She emerged wearing light blue jeans and a snug black turtleneck, a gift from the Hokage. Though it wasn't her usual style, she wore it out of gratitude and respect. Her next stop was the flower shop owned by Ino's family. As she walked in, she was greeted by Ino herself. Hey Naruko. What's with the fancy outfit? Ino asked curiously. Well, I was hoping to pick up some flowers for tonight, Naruko replied, a bit shyly. Wait a minute. You're going on a date? Who's the lucky girl, Sakura? Ino asked excitedly. What? No, it's not Sakura. I never really had feelings for her. It was more of a cover. I knew the villagers wouldn't give her trouble, so it was a way to protect someone else, Naruko admitted. Oh. I get it now. You were protecting someone else. And after what happened yesterday. Oh my gosh. You're going on a date with Hinata, aren't you? Squealed Ino, surprising Naruko. Yeah, Naruko said, blushing. That's so sweet. You saved her yesterday and now you're taking her out? Hold on, I've got the perfect bouquet. Wait, Ino. I already know what flowers I want, Naruko said with a gentle smile. Are you sure? I know my flowers, Ino said playfully. I'm sure. Can you get me some purple lilacs, a single white lily, and a few blue violets? Naruko requested. Wow. You actually know the meanings behind those flowers? Ino asked, impressed. Yeah. I like learning new things, even if they don't seem typical for a shinobi, Naruko replied with a proud grin. Well, look at you, Miss Thoughtful. Let me go get those, Ino said, disappearing into the greenhouse. As she gathered the bouquet, Ino giggled to herself. This is going to be so cute. Maybe I'll grab Kuji and Shikamaru to watch from a distance. Just to make sure Naruko behaves. She thought mischievously. Naruko thanked Ino and sealed the flowers safely onto her wrist before making her way to the Hyuga compound. After a quick chat with the guards, she was escorted to the main building where she waited patiently for Hinata's father. Hiyashi arrived and was visibly surprised at how presentable and sincere Naruko appeared. My daughter will be down shortly, Uzumaki. I trust you'll treat her with the utmost respect, he said before walking away with a small smile hidden from Naruko's view. Naruko sat quietly for a moment until a younger girl entered the room. So you're the one taking my sister out tonight. I heard you're strong. I just don't get why you'd want to spend time with her, said the girl bluntly. What do you mean by that? Naruko asked, frowning. My sister is kind, but she's not strong. I can usually win when we spar. I don't think she's cut out to be a shinobi, Hanabi said. You're wrong, Naruko responded calmly. Hinata isn't weak. She just chooses kindness over aggression. That's a strength most people don't understand. She keeps going, no matter what others say. That's real strength. Kindness won't help our clan, Hanabi said, turning away. Funny. Konohamaru once told me you were brave and thoughtful. Maybe he was mistaken, Naruko said gently, causing Hanabi to leave the room in silence. Moments later, Hinata entered, and Naruko's breath caught. Hinata wore a soft lavender sundress and her hair was gently flowing to her shoulders. Hi, Hinata. Are you ready for tonight? Naruko asked, smiling warmly. Why yes, Naruko. Thank you for inviting me, Hinata replied, nervously. You don't have to be nervous. You're much more amazing when you're just being yourself, Naruko said kindly. I'll try to relax, Hinata said with a small smile. Great. Let's go. I've got a surprise planned, Naruko said as they left the compound. As they walked hand in hand toward the Hokage monument, Hinata's mind raced with thoughts about how quickly things had changed. Where are we going? She asked softly. There's a spot I like to visit when I want peace. I think you'll like it too, Naruko said, gently holding her hand. Once they reached the top, Hinata saw an empty clearing and looked a bit puzzled. Naruko smiled, unsealed a scroll, and in a puff of smoke, a beautifully set dinner table with candlelight appeared. Hinata gasped in awe. Naruko. This is incredible, she said as she sat down. I had help from some clones and a bit of sealing practice. I've been studying more advanced techniques. One day, I hope to master sealing like the fourth Hokage, Naruko said as she served the food. They spent the next hour enjoying a peaceful meal, talking about their time on their respective teams. After clearing everything away, they sat side by side atop the monument, watching the sunset. Hinata, these are for you, Naruko said, unsealing the bouquet and handing it to her. Hinata blushed. You know what these mean? Naruko nodded. I do. I like learning about the little things that make people happy. Moved by her thoughtfulness, Hinata hugged Naruko tightly. Thank you, Naruko. You've changed my life. You've always been there when I needed someone, Hinata whispered. Naruko gently held her. I'll always be there for you. Do you remember when we met as kids? We played for weeks at the playground. Yes. I never forgot. But you stopped coming, Hinata replied. I wanted to keep seeing you. But people said things. They said if I kept spending time with you, you might get hurt because of me. I couldn't let that happen. So I pretended to like someone else. I'm sorry, Hinata. Will you forgive me? Hinata hugged her again. I forgive you, Naruko. You've always tried to protect me. Thank you. They sat in quiet happiness, watching the stars appear in the night sky. Hinata wished the moment would last forever, but soon it was time to go. We should head back. I wouldn't want your father to worry, Naruko said gently. Yeah. Let's go, Hinata replied softly. The two of them walked together in peaceful silence, gently holding hands as they made their way out of the Hyuga compound. Well, Hinata, here we are. I hope we can do this again sometime, said Naruko with a warm smile. Hinata simply nodded, then surprised Naruko by giving her a quick hug and a sweet kiss on the cheek before dashing back into the compound. Naruko stood there, a bit stunned at first, but her expression soon softened into a happy smile as she continued her walk home. When she reached her apartment and opened the door, she was surprised to find Jiraiya waiting inside. So, Uro-sennin, what are you doing here this late? Asked Naruko curiously. Not much, just wondering if you'd like to come along on a journey to find someone, Jiraiya replied. Along the way, I might teach you a few powerful jutsus. When do we leave? Naruko asked with interest. Tomorrow at noon, said Jiraiya with a grin. That'll give you time to tell your friends, and that kind-hearted Hyuga girl, that you'll be away for a little while. Wait, were you spying on me? Naruko said, narrowing her eyes. If you even think about putting anything like that into one of your books, I'll make sure you regret it. Yeah, I hear you, Jiraiya said with a chuckle. So, are you in or not? Alright, I'll go. But it better be worth it, Uro-sennin. Now get out of my apartment so I can get some sleep, Naruko said, waving him off. Jiraiya smirked and leapt out the window, leaving Naruko to prepare for the day ahead. So we're heading out to find the slug Sannin, your former teammate and the next 5th Hokage? Asked Naruko as she and her companions passed through the village gates. That's exactly the plan, replied Jiraiya with a grin. So why bring Hayate-sensei and me along? She asked curiously. Well, it's not like we'll find her in a day. Think of it as a training trip, Jiraiya explained. Besides, your sensei wants to help you develop one of your techniques. Oh? What will you be helping me with, Hayate-sensei? Asked Naruko, turning toward her teacher. I'm going to help you refine your dance of the Baijuu technique, he answered with a nod. Actually, I've been working on it already. I thought of a way to improve it last night, said Naruko, smiling confidently. So that's what you were doing this morning? Jiraiya asked. Working on your technique before we left? I'm not sure that's all she was doing, Hayate teased. She looked a little flustered this morning, not like she'd just finished a workout. Maybe it had something to do with a certain Hyuga girl she was seen with last night, Jiraiya said with a mischievous smirk. Naruko blushed instantly. Oh, come on, don't tease me, Uro-sennin. It's not my fault I have a girlfriend and you don't, she muttered. So that is what you were up to, Jiraiya laughed. You asked her out before we left. Clever move. Hayate chuckled. So when are you introducing her to us? When you finally introduce me to Yugao, like you promised, Naruko said playfully. Besides, you already met Hinata during the Chunin exams, she was the one who lost to her cousin, Neji. I'll keep my word when we get back. I was actually wondering why you were so upset when she got hurt during that match. It all makes sense now, Hayate said thoughtfully. Alright, now that you've explained Hayate-sensei's role, what about you? Naruko asked, looking at Jiraiya. This trip's also your chance to learn one of the 4th Hokage's signature techniques, the Rasengan. It's one of the jutsu that made him famous, Jiraiya replied proudly. Awesome. When do we start? Naruko asked eagerly. We'll need a few supplies first, so we'll begin once we reach the next town, Jiraiya said. Alright, I can be patient, she said, nodding. The next day, in a small town. Naruko sat cross-legged on her bed in the inn room she shared with Jiraiya and Hayate. While the two adults went to gather information about Tsunade, she focused on her training. A balloon filled with water spun rapidly in her hand, responding to her chakra. Almost. Just a little more, she whispered. Pop. The balloon burst, sending water everywhere, but she didn't mind. Yes. I did it faster than Uro-sennin. She cheered. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. Who is it? Naruko called out, frowning slightly. No answer came, just more knocking. Alright, I'm coming, she muttered, heading to the door. When she opened it, she was met with an unusual sight. 2 tall men stood outside. One had a calm, unreadable expression, and the other had a rather distinct, shark-like appearance. Who are you, and why are you at my door? Naruko asked firmly. Naruko Uzumaki. Please come with us, said the dark-haired man with quiet authority. Aha, sure. Let me just grab my things, she replied with a polite smile and shut the door. That went better than expected, murmured the shark-like man. From inside the room, wind style, drilling air bullet. A powerful gust of wind burst through the door, catching the shark-like man by surprise and sending him flying through the wall. "Sorry," Naruko called out. "But my sensei told me to never trust strangers who show up uninvited." "She's quicker than we were told," said the calm man. "Let's go." Dash. Outside the town. Naruko darted from rooftop to rooftop, then finally out to a wide field. She turned to face her pursuers, breathing steadily. "So you decided to stop running. Brave, but unwise," said the shark-like man with a toothy smirk. "I just thought it'd be safer to avoid a crowded area," Naruko replied evenly. "And honestly, why would I be afraid of someone who looks like a sea creature?" "Be careful," the other man warned. "We have instructions not to harm her seriously." Right. I'll handle this," the shark-like one said, taking a large bandaged sword from his back. "Well then," Naruko said, drawing her own sword. "Let's see if you can keep up." She disappeared in a blur, reappearing beside her opponent. He barely had time to raise his weapon before their blades clashed. "You're quick," he admitted. "But if all you can do is dodge, this won't last long." "Let's put that to the test," she replied, performing a technique. Wind style, howling blades. Several small wind blades flew toward her opponent, forcing him back. She moved quickly and managed to score a hit on his leg. How is she so skilled with a sword? The man wondered. This doesn't make sense. "Are you going to get serious, or are we done?" Naruko asked with determination, shifting into a ready stance. "That's it. I'm going all out. Water style, water bullets." 3 bursts of water shot toward her. She dodged one and sliced through the others, but was caught off guard by a follow-up strike. He used his sword like a springboard to launch a powerful kick, sending her flying into a tree. The impact stunned her for a moment. But before her opponent could move closer, a blade of wind shot from the forest, forcing him to defend. "That was impressive," he muttered, blocking with his sword. Naruko emerged, her movement slower now. Her clothes were torn, and small scrapes lined her arms, but she kept going. The battle grew more intense, and she was gradually pushed back. "You're running low on energy," her opponent said calmly. "I've noticed your sword channels special chakra, mine absorbs it and strengthens me. You won't win this way. I need to change tactics. I can't rely on this form," Naruko thought. She quickly created a shadow clone. Both she and the clone formed hand signs. Fire style, great fireball. Wind style, great breakthrough. The combined jutsu formed an enormous fiery gust that surged toward the opponent. He countered with a towering wall of water, which blocked the flames, but steam filled the entire field. A silence fell across the area, the mist swirling thick and heavy as the fight prepared to continue. Kisame found himself at a bit of a disadvantage. Unlike Zabuza, he had never taken the time to learn the silent mist technique. His approach had always been more straightforward. So when he heard Naruko's voice echo softly through the fog, his eyes narrowed in caution. How did this young girl learn the silent mist technique? She's only a Chunin, he thought, gripping Seimata in a defensive stance. "I bet you're wondering where I learned this, Kisame," Naruko's voice drifted through the mist. "Let's just say someone you once knew taught me. Even if we weren't allies, I respected his strength and his ideals." She must have crossed paths with Zabuza at some point and picked up a few techniques, Kisame figured. But she's worn out. That should limit how much of an advantage she can gain. As he braced himself, he suddenly heard a sword sweep in from the right. He quickly blocked with Seimata, clashing once more with Naruko's blade, Otori Teru, before she disappeared back into the mist. Almost immediately, another strike came from the opposite side. Kisame leapt away just in time. He didn't anticipate a third strike from behind, which caught him off guard and grazed his side, leaving a long tear across his cloak. However, Naruko's moment of triumph was brief. The Kisame she had struck shimmered and dissolved into a splash of water. It had only been a clone. Before she could react, a powerful stream of water crashed into her, launching her out of the mist and into a boulder with enough force to make her vision blur. "Hey, that girl really thought she could challenge someone like me and win?" Kisame said as he slowly stepped forward. "I'll admit, she put up more of a fight than I expected." Before he could get any closer, a loud shout rang through the clearing. He and Itachi turned toward the noise, expecting another ambush, but instead, they saw Sasuke Uchiha charging toward Itachi with his Chidori at the ready. "Itachi! This is it. I've lived too long with this anger, I'm here to face you." Itachi effortlessly deflected the attack, redirecting it into the ground. In the blink of an eye, he struck Sasuke in the stomach, making him stagger back. A second blow sent him tumbling across the ground, where he barely managed to rise to his feet. "So what brings you here, little brother?" Itachi asked, voice calm and detached. "I'm here to defeat you, for everything you did to our clan," Sasuke shouted, rushing again only to be knocked back once more. "And yet, you didn't come for your friend, Naruko?" "I don't care what you do with her," Sasuke said coldly. "She's weak. Once I defeat you, I'll take control of the village. People will listen to me. I'll make sure she's pushed aside and forgotten." Itachi's eyes narrowed, though his face remained expressionless. Despite everything, he held a quiet loyalty to the hidden leaf. Few knew that he had always worked in secret for the village's safety, answering to the third Hokage and Jiraiya. Now his own brother stood before him, filled with resentment and willing to abandon a comrade. He gave Sasuke one final look. "So be it, brother." In an instant, Itachi disappeared and reappeared behind Sasuke, delivering a clean strike that sent him tumbling again. This time, Sasuke found himself caught in a powerful illusion, his mind spinning in a world of confusion and fear. Just then, a powerful gust hit Kisame and knocked him back into a nearby rock wall. Itachi looked up, seeing Naruko, still standing, albeit barely, her clothes torn and her energy low, but her spirit undimmed. Sensing what was coming, Itachi moved just in time to avoid the full force of a Rasengan from Jiraiya, which exploded upon impact with the ground, sending debris flying. "Well, I had a feeling things would turn chaotic," Jiraiya said with a chuckle, stepping into the clearing with Hayate by his side. Naruko stumbled over to them, limping but determined. Kisame slowly stood as well, covered in small cuts. "Kisame, we're leaving," said Itachi firmly. "With Jiraiya and Hayate both here, this is no longer in our favor." Kisame nodded in agreement. "We'll meet again, Naruko Uzumaki," Itachi said before the two vanished into the trees. "That guy sure can swing," Naruko muttered with a tired grin before collapsing. Her sword crumbled into glowing ash and drifted away on the breeze. "We better move fast before Tsunade decides to relocate," Jiraiya said. Hayate picked up Naruko gently, and they took to the trees once more. Meanwhile, Might Guy arrived in the clearing with a dramatic, dynamic entry. Only to find an unconscious Sasuke lying in a crater. He sighed, picked him up, and began the journey back to the village, confident that the others had made it out safely. A week later, Naruko, Jiraiya, and Hayate arrived at the bustling town of Tanaka. Naruko, feeling stronger after some recovery, had surprised both her mentors by advancing rapidly with the Rasengan, nearing the final phase sooner than expected. "So this is Tanaka town? I thought there was supposed to be a big castle here," Naruko said curiously. "What are you talking about, kid? The castle's right wait a second." Jiraiya turned, only to find ruins where the castle should have been. "Run! Giant snakes," someone shouted as they dashed past the trio, fleeing from the destruction. "It looks like Orochimaru may also be searching for your teammate," Jiraiya stated Hayate with concern. "Then we should find her quickly, just to be safe," Jiraiya replied as Naruko created 50 shadow clones, each dashing off in a different direction to begin the search. "Why don't we look for some rooms while my clones search for Tsunade?" suggested Naruko as she walked down the street casually. "Good idea, kid," Jiraiya nodded, taking the lead and guiding them to a nearby hotel where they could stay. An hour later, Naruko suddenly emerged from her training, making both Jiraiya and Hayate jump slightly in surprise. "One of my clones found her in a diner not far from here. Let's go," Naruko said confidently, taking the lead this time. Soon they arrived at the diner. Jiraiya spotted his old teammate enjoying a bottle of sake, her student beside her with a small pig in her arms. "Let me handle this, okay?" Jiraiya said calmly, walking up to Tsunade. Tsunade and Shizune were deep in conversation about recent events involving Orochimaru. If what Orochimaru had said was true, then the village had lost their Hokage, and he had made promises that stirred long-buried emotions. Suddenly, Tsunade was startled. "Jiraiya! What are you doing here?" she exclaimed, nearly spilling her drink. "Can't an old friend stop by to say hello?" Jiraiya asked with a warm smile, sitting beside her. Naruko and Hayate joined Shizune at the table. "Not with you, it's never that simple. What's going on?" "And don't lie," Tsunade said seriously. Jiraiya sighed. "Sarutobi-sensei is gone, and we need a new Hokage. We need you, Tsunade." Tsunade looked at him quietly before replying firmly, "No." Naruko's eyes widened, and her expression shifted with emotion. "What do you mean no? Don't you care about everything the village stands for?" Don't you care about him, about all of them? Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Of course I care. But that doesn't mean my mentor didn't make mistakes. So did all the previous Hokage, even the one who came after him. Naruko clenched her fists, deeply upset. Don't speak like that about the fourth Hokage. Tsunade paused when she noticed Naruko's bright blue eyes, blonde hair, and the markings on her cheeks. She realized who Naruko must be, but her tone didn't soften. If they were so wise, why did they sacrifice so much? Naruko's eyes briefly flared with determination. In a flash, she stood, her voice strong and unwavering. Because they believed in something greater than themselves. They protected others when it mattered most. That's something to be proud of, not mocked. You were once one of the greatest shinobi, don't let your past cloud your honor. Tsunade looked away briefly, but her gaze returned with renewed strength. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. Naruko looked directly at her. You think I don't understand loss? My life has been shaped by it. I've faced it since the day I was born. But I still believe in hope, and in protecting others. I'm not going back, Tsunade said finally. I'm not letting this go. Jiraiya-sensei, I'm going to challenge her, Naruko said, determined. Jiraiya raised his eyebrows. She only calls me sensei when she's really serious. Tsunade smirked slightly. You really think you can take me on? I'm one of the legendary Sannin. Underestimate me, and you'll be surprised, old lady, Naruko replied calmly. All I need is a single finger, Tsunade said, raising one. Naruko grinned. Then let's see what happens. In a blink, Naruko vanished. Tsunade's eyes widened at her speed, narrowly dodging the strike from behind. She tried to counter, but Naruko was already gone again. Tsunade responded by slamming her finger into the ground, sending a stone slab upward to block Naruko. But Naruko launched herself into the air, landed on the slab, and backflipped off it, forming hand signs in mid-air. Wind style, wind dragon, Naruko shouted, releasing a swirling wind attack toward Tsunade. She dodged just in time, but the resulting shockwave sent her stumbling into a wall. Naruko stood balanced atop the rock, a slight smile on her face. Are you going to take me seriously, or am I just that much faster? You're quick, I'll give you that. But don't get ahead of yourself, kid, Tsunade said as she lunged forward. Naruko continued to dodge gracefully. You enhance your strength. I enhance my speed. I'm a master of wind style. It's all about moving with precision and striking at the perfect moment. Tsunade realized she'd have to increase her efforts. With a determined yell, she struck the ground, causing a tremor. Naruko stumbled, and Tsunade took her chance, landing a powerful blow that sent Naruko flying into a nearby wall. The observers gasped. That looked painful, whispered Hayate. Maybe Naruko pushed too far, Shizune murmured, concerned. But to everyone's surprise, Naruko emerged from the debris, determined and still standing. With a focused expression, she charged forward, a swirling, incomplete Rasengan forming in her palm. Tsunade barely avoided it and turned to Jiraiya with an incredulous look. What were you thinking, teaching her that? It took you a year to learn it. I can master the Rasengan. My father created it, Naruko declared, stunning both Tsunade and Shizune. How do you know that? Tsunade asked, clearly shocked. You can thank the Nine Tails for that, Naruko said confidently. You can communicate with it? Tsunade asked in disbelief. Yes. We've built a respectful partnership. He helps me train, and I give him peace. It works. Tsunade looked thoughtful. Then she smiled slightly. All right, Naruko. How about a wager? If you win, I'll return to Konoha and become the fifth Hokage. If I win, you give me all the money in your pocket. And to sweeten the deal, I'll throw in my grandfather's necklace. Naruko didn't hesitate. You're on. But I'm telling you now, I don't lose. Dash. A week later, after training and preparation, Naruko woke up to Shizune bursting into the room. Jiraiya. We need to find Tsunade immediately, I think she made a huge mistake, she cried. Jiraiya wasn't there, only Naruko and Hayate were in the room, both instantly alert. What's going on, Shizune? Hayate asked, his tone serious. A week prior to your arrival, Tsunade's other teammate, Orochimaru, paid us a visit, Shizune explained calmly. He came seeking help for injuries to his arms and offered to bring back Dan and Nawaki in return. That explains why she tried to trick me with Sake, came a voice from the doorway. The group turned to see Jiraiya, looking a bit pale and leaning on the doorframe for support. Wow, Uro-sennin, I thought you were always ready for anything, Even the strangest situations, Naruko said with a teasing smile. Easy there, kid. If what Shizune says is true, we don't have much time before the deal goes through. We need a plan, Jiraiya replied seriously. How are you feeling, Jiraiya? You'll probably need to face Orochimaru, Hayate said as he prepared his katana. We also need to know who else we might face. Well, besides Orochimaru, there were two others, Shizune recalled. They seemed to be at Jounin level. One had white hair and a very calm expression, though he looked unwell. The other had grayish hair and wore glasses. The one who tried to take Hinata is here? Naruko exclaimed in shock. Hinata? Shizune asked in confusion. She's very close to Naruko, and the heiress to the Hyuga clan, Jiraiya explained. During the invasion, she was taken, but Naruko brought her back safely. She's important to me, Naruko said with quiet determination. Hayate, Shizune, you two go after Kabuto. He's more of a threat than Kimimaro. I'll handle him. Jiraiya gave a nod. All right, let's go. Tsunade may need help. Elsewhere, Tsunade had already confronted Orochimaru and had tried to surprise him, only to be interrupted by Kabuto. She was out of breath and struggling to land a clean hit. I should have asked Naruko about that flash step technique after we made our bet, Tsunade thought. If I were faster, he wouldn't be evading me so easily. Tsunade, you've gotten slower since last time, Orochimaru said with a mocking grin. I guess all that traveling has made you soft. You're fortunate your allies arrived when they did, Tsunade replied firmly. Perhaps, Orochimaru said. Kabuto, shall we wrap this up? Understood, Kabuto replied, landing in front of Tsunade with a dagger in hand. You really think he can defeat me? Tsunade asked, unshaken. Kabuto only smiled. Who said I had to defeat you directly? He made a calculated move that overwhelmed Tsunade with distressing memories. As she struggled to stay focused, Kabuto approached, preparing for another strike. Wind style, piercing air spear. Came a sudden call, and a blast of wind forced Kabuto to leap away. Well, if it isn't Jiraiya and his group, Orochimaru said as Kimimaro and Kabuto regrouped at his side. Orochimaru, you've gone too far. You won't get away with this, Jiraiya said. You really believe you can stop me? Orochimaru replied with a smirk. Everyone, focus on your targets. Naruko, give it your all, just like your father would have, Jiraiya said before launching into action. Naruko gave a determined nod and locked eyes with Kimimaro. Without exchanging words, the two leapt away from the group to begin their duel. So I get two Jounin to myself? Kabuto said calmly. Seems a bit unfair for a Jounin to face someone like Kimimaro alone. Don't underestimate Naruko, Hayate responded. Kabuto, you're under arrest for betraying the village. Ah, Naruko Uzumaki. We meet again. No interference this time, Kimimaro said. I've been waiting for this moment, Kimimaro, Naruko replied. Last time, we were both holding back. This time, let's go all out. Show me your strength, Kimimaro said, drawing a bone blade from his arm. Gladly. Rise from the eternal ashes. Otori Teru. Naruko called out. A cloud of dark ash swirled up from the ground around her. When it cleared, Naruko stood clad in sleek black armor, wielding her crimson and black blade. They stood still for a moment, then Kimimaro dashed forward, aiming a swift strike. Naruko responded by swinging her blade, sending a wave of crimson energy at him. Kimimaro leapt over it and countered with a slash, which Naruko blocked with her sword. Their duel escalated, blades clashing in rapid succession as neither showed signs of slowing. Every block flowed into a counterattack, their movements sharp and precise. Eventually, both found an opening and landed minor hits on each other's shoulders. The wounds were quickly healed, Naruko through her chakra and Kimimaro through his own unique abilities. Suddenly, Kimimaro extended his hands and began firing a series of bone spikes. Naruko moved swiftly to evade, slashing the one she couldn't avoid. She leapt into the air and launched another wave of energy from her sword, destroying many of the projectiles. Kimimaro dodged, only to find himself facing a barrage of air projectiles. He blocked a few, but one clipped his leg, causing him to stumble. Naruko seized the opportunity and launched a flurry of strikes. Kimimaro was forced to block while retreating, but he was at a disadvantage and began taking hits along his side, even though his body was healing them. Kimimaro retaliated with another set of projectiles from his fingers. Naruko evaded them, giving him a moment to activate the first stage of his cursed seal. Black markings spread across his body, and a second blade formed. With a sudden burst of speed, Kimimaro vanished and reappeared behind Naruko, attacking with force. She blocked in time but was pushed back. She stood up quickly, only to be hit by a powerful knee that sent her flying. As she rose into the air, Kimimaro appeared above her and struck again. Naruko managed to raise her sword and defend herself, but the impact drove her to the ground. Though bruised and visibly tired, Naruko stood back up. Her chakra was already beginning to mend her injuries. "You're faster than before," she observed calmly as Kimimaro landed nearby. "I was weakened during our last fight," Kimimaro admitted. "But I've recovered enough to face you at full strength now." "Well, that's too bad, but I'm still faster," Naruko stated before disappearing from view with a flash step. Kimimaro bent back as Otori Teru narrowly missed her throat before she had a chance to react. At this point, the two were jumping from wall to wall, slashing at each other with such speed that most people wouldn't be able to follow. Sparks flew throughout the battlefield, one after another. This continued for several minutes as the two warriors clashed, each determined not to lose. They both stopped, landing on separate walls, facing each other, their bodies marked by numerous wounds. "This is one of the best fights I've ever had, Kimimaro." "Too bad we're enemies," said Naruko. "Yes, it is a pity, Uzumaki. But as long as Orochimaru has use for me, I will fight and do whatever is required of me," Kimimaro replied. "I don't understand. Why would you willingly give your life for someone who only uses you for their selfish purposes? I knew someone like you once, Kimimaro. He taught me what true strength is. It's about protecting those you love. If you fight for them, then you are truly powerful," Naruko said, her voice filled with conviction. "Orochimaru gave me a reason to live, Uzumaki. Without him, I would either be dead or a mindless weapon. When he found me, I was a savage, consumed by bloodlust. He cured me of that, and when I fell ill, he dedicated years to finding a cure. I will fight for him until I no longer have any use in his eyes," Kimimaro responded, his resolve unwavering. "It's unfortunate that someone like you serves a person like Orochimaru," Naruko said with a hint of sadness. "A monster in your eyes, perhaps. But now, let's end this battle," Kimimaro declared, his curse mark beginning to alter his appearance, and his bone swords glowing with dark purple energy. "Let's finish this. Reap upon the eternal ashes." "Otori Teru," Naruko shouted as her blade blazed with bright crimson energy, transforming into the shape of a scythe. Naruko's hair grew wilder, now streaked with crimson highlights, and a fierce grin spread across her face. "Come at me, Kimimaro. Let Otori Teru taste your strength once more," she yelled. The two charged, their weapons glowing with powerful energy. When their weapons collided, a burst of purple and crimson energy exploded into the air. The force sent both of them crashing backward into the walls they had been standing on. The battle continued as they both got to their feet, determined to defeat one another. Soon, both were covered in deep cuts, blood staining their clothes as they prepared to strike again. With both of their weapons glowing with energy, they swung at each other once more, but just as their blades were about to clash, Kabuto and Hayate landed between the two warriors. Naruko quickly adjusted her attack to avoid them, but Kimimaro's strike, too fast to alter, headed straight toward them. Kabuto and Hayate leapt back in time, but the shockwave of the attack sent both of them flying. Naruko raised her sword, which had returned to its normal form after the powerful blast, to shield herself. The attack collided with Naruko and her sword, resulting in a massive explosion. The impact sent her flying, covered in burns and cuts, landing near the still unconscious Tsunade. Kimimaro, having exhausted the last of his energy, reverted to his original form, bruised and weakened. He limped toward the fallen Naruko, determined to finish the battle. However, Kabuto now stood over both Konoha shinobi, weighing his options. "Looks like it's time for the Sannin to go," Kabuto mused, raising his dagger to strike Tsunade. Hayate, despite his injuries, tried to reach them in time to stop him, but Shizune was unconscious just a few meters away. Tsunade closed her eyes, bracing herself for the worst. But when a splash of liquid hit her face, she looked up, stunned. Naruko was standing above her, the dagger piercing through her shoulder. Naruko coughed weakly, gripping Kabuto's hand where he held the dagger. "Hey, old lady, remember that bet we made? Time to settle it," Naruko said with a faint, determined smile, as she used her remaining strength to form a Rasengan. Despite Kabuto's efforts to resist, she pushed it into his stomach, sending him flying across the battlefield. Kimimaro helped Kabuto to his feet as they glared at Hayate, the last ninja left who could still fight. "Tsunade, you need to snap out of it and heal Naruko, or she won't make it," Hayate said urgently, as Naruko collapsed from exhaustion and her severe injuries. Tsunade finally overcame her shock and began to desperately heal Naruko, soon joined by a weakened Shizune who had managed to wake up. Together, they worked quickly, closing Naruko's wounds and stabilizing her breathing. Meanwhile, Orochimaru and Jiraiya stopped their fight, watching the scene unfold. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes at the unconscious Naruko. If I don't do something about her now, she could become a significant threat in the years to come, he thought, rushing toward Naruko. Jiraiya attempted to intervene but was pushed away by Orochimaru's powerful strike, shouting a warning to Tsunade. Tsunade, seeing Orochimaru charging toward Naruko with his sword extended, made a split-second decision. She leapt in front of the blade, determined to protect Naruko. Orochimaru laughed, dismissing Tsunade's sacrifice as futile. You think protecting her will make a difference? She'll die regardless, he sneered. However, that confidence quickly turned to surprise as Tsunade, having healed herself with her regeneration technique, launched a powerful counterattack. She pummeled Orochimaru across the battlefield with relentless force, striking him repeatedly. Orochimaru retaliated, using his sword to block some of her blows, but the battle had turned in Tsunade's favor. With one final strike, he managed to retreat toward Kabuto and Kimimaro. This isn't over, Tsunade, Jiraiya. I will destroy you both in the Hidden Leaf, Orochimaru declared, his voice filled with hatred as he and his followers disappeared into the ground. Alright, guys, that's a wrap for this segment. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for all your support. Lots of love. 6 Path Weeb.